Coming up tonight, the Gamecocks drowned in the swamp.
Later, the Gamecocks take first blood in the Palmetto Cup.
And finally, the Hornets get back their best player from injury.
These stories and more on Palmetto State Sports.
From the Blue Ridge Mountains and through the Midlands down to the coast, there's plenty of sports highlights and moments here in South Carolina. There's only one place where you'll catch all the action. This is Palmetto State Sports.
Welcome into Palmetto State Sports. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm Courtney Hollmon. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Gamecocks suffered a loss on the road on Saturday against the Florida Gators. Very different from the Vanderbilt game, the Gamecocks struggled defensively as they took a 38-6 loss.
The Gamecocks could not contain the Gators quarterback Anthony Richardson, who counted for 3 touchdowns, as well as Montrell Johnson Jr., who ran for 161 yards and a touchdown. The special teams for the Gamecocks provided some hope as punter Kai Kroger and Dakarian Joyner teamed up for a 48-yard fake punt touchdown pass before the end of the first half. Special teams then came back in the second half to follow up their great performance with blocking a 36-yard field goal attempt.
The Gamecocks also suffered offensively as they were down their best 2 running backs, Marshawn Lloyd and Christian Bill Smith. Lloyd is continuing rehab for a thigh bruise suffered during the Missouri game, and Bill Smith misses his 4th game of the season and was spotted with a boot on his foot. The Gamecocks are at home one last time this week as they take on Tennessee on Saturday, kicking off at 7 p.m.
Gamecock women's basketball got a big statement win last Friday over the ranked Maryland Terrapins in College Park by a score of 81-56. Again, they were led by the 2 touted seniors of the group, Aaliyah Boston and Zia Cook. Boston put up 16 points and snatched 13 boards, while Cook led the team in scoring again with 18 points. After only having a 6-point lead at halftime, the Gamecocks offense exploded in the third quarter, scoring 30 points and extending their lead to 19 points. They go on a little road trip this week as they start it with a game at Clemson tomorrow night, and then we'll get an epic clash of the Titans as they will take on second-ranked Stanford this Sunday.
With football season winding down, the focus is beginning to shift from the field to the court, and fans are getting excited.
The new men's basketball team played their second game of the season against the Clemson Tigers on Friday.
The Gamecocks, along with new head coach Lamont Paris, headed into the first rivalry game of the Lamont era, surrounded by an electric Colonial Life Arena, and defeated the Tigers in a 60-58 victory.
This win for the Gamecocks puts them with a record of 2-0 and also puts the first Palmetto State rivalry under Paris's belt.
Throughout the game, there were several key players that contributed to the Gamecock win, such as freshman guard Gigi Jackson and sophomore guard Jacoby Wright, who both led strong offenses against the Tigers. But no one stood out more than senior guard Chico Carter Jr., who made the game-winning shot with 0.3 seconds left. In a press conference after the game, Chico described the moment. Here's what he had to say.
I'm on a high right now. I'm trying to come down. I just saw the lane. I forgot who passed to me. I think Meach or Gigi passed to me. I was like, looked up at the clock, like 5 seconds left. I was like, I got to try to make something happen. You know what I'm saying? Came around and it went in. So the crowd went crazy. Feel good to be in Columbia, man, to making that shot.
The Gamecocks are back in action tomorrow in Charleston as they take on Colorado State as part of the Charleston Classic. Fans can catch the game on ESPNU beginning at 5 p.m.
Another Gamecock sports team defeated the Clemson Tigers this past Friday, and the hatred even boiled over just after regulation ended. Let's see what happened after Cock Hockey secured a 5-4 victory over the Tigers in the Palmetto Cup with myself and Tommy Cooper on the call.
Folger still on the face-off to the right of Gormley, looking to end this one, and this face-off has suddenly become a lot more important, Spencer.
Definitely. I mean, they're close to goal. They'll at least get a solid attempt, likely.
Flaherty putting that against the glass, and a bit of a scrum there for the puck, and the Gamecocks do a great job of holding off for 7 seconds. As you see Gormley waving to the Clemson players goodbye, and a good, great even third period by Liam Gormley as the Gamecocks take home the Palmetto Cup with a little bit of chippiness afterwards from Locken and the Clemson players. A little upset about the loss.
Senior Owen Thomas scored 2 goals and some great saves by Liam Gormley in goals secured the Gamecock victory. They move to 11-1 on the season and will host Tennessee Friday night at 8:15, where SGTV will be live streaming the game.
And getting 2 wins over Clemson on the same day with packed houses at both places is just really something special.
I really think it's a turnaround for Gamecock Nation. I really believe that. Coming up, SGTV News 4 sports reporter Connor Fisher will give us a glimpse at the sports world outside the Palmetto State.
Welcome back, Gamecock fans. Sports doesn't just happen here in the Palmetto State. Here's what's going on around the country. On Saturday night, the Charlotte Hornets got a well-needed boost when point guard LaMelo Ball made his season debut. The 2020 Rookie of the Year had suffered a left ankle sprain during the preseason, and without him, the Hornets have struggled. While the Hornets were not able to win his season debut, falling to the Miami Heat 132-115. The losing streak ended at 8 last night with a win against the Orlando Magic. In his first 2 games back, LaMelo is averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. As of today, the Hornets are 4-11 and still near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. On Thursday night of last week, the Carolina Panthers took on the Atlanta Falcons for the second time this season. With conditions rapidly deteriorating in Charlotte, the Panthers were able to gut out a gritty win with a final score of 25-15. In driving rain, Panthers quarterback P.J. Walker completed 10 of his 16 passes for just 108 yards without a touchdown. The offensive load was carried by the rushing attack. Veteran Donta Foreman carried the ball 31 times for 130 yards and a touchdown. Carolina's defense sacked Falcons quarterback Marcus Mariota 5 times, and former Gamecock star J.C. Horn picked off his second pass of the season during the first quarter. This week, the now 3-7 Panthers go on the road to take on the 6-3 Baltimore Ravens. Unfortunately for Carolina, they won't have P.J. Walker against the Ravens, as it was revealed he suffered a high ankle sprain against Atlanta. Baker Mayfield is expected to get the start. That's the Pro Sports Rundown for this week. Coming up after the break, Colleen Sholtis will bring you more Carolina sports news. I'm Connor Fisher, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Colleen Sholtis. The Gamecocks will face the number 5 ranked Tennessee Volunteers in their last home game of the season this Saturday. SEC Nation announced they will be traveling to the Palmetto State for their weekly SEC pregame show on the Horseshoe from 10 a.m. to noon. Sixth season host Laura Rutledge will be joined by Paul Feinbaum, Roman Harper, Jordan Rogers, and Tim Tebow to give the weekly SEC updates and breakdowns. Marty Smith and Ryan McGee of Marty and McGee will also be joining from 9 to 10. Additionally, the Paul Feinbaum Show will be live on Friday from 3 to 7 p.m., also on the Horseshoe. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. under the lights one last time this season in Williams-Brice Stadium, with Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler in the booth, along with Holly Rowe on the sidelines. And this game will be broadcasted on ESPN. And with the broadcast team this elite, it's really exciting for the Gamecocks to have this feature.
Absolutely. SEC Nation hasn't come to Columbia in a couple of years, but I remember when they did when I was a freshman, and it was electric.
Absolutely. Gamecock women's basketball continues to impress with the women's preseason top 50 watch list for the John R. Wooden Award. As the winner of the award last year, Aaliyah Boston looks to take it home again this year, but she is joined on the list by fellow seniors Bree Beal and Zia Cook. With 50 players on the list now, it will narrow down mid-season, late season, and finalize to the top 15 players on the national ballot. Voters will consider all aspects of the John R. Wooden Award and pick the most outstanding players to make the Wooden All-American team announced just before the NCAA Elite Eight round. The winner will then be presented postseason in April in Los Angeles. And I mean, I feel like we're constantly talking about this women's basketball team. They're so impressive.
Absolutely. Just the fact that 3 players might be considered for the highest honor in the country really tells you how good Dawn Staley has built this team.
Yeah. Coming up after the break, what Carolina sporting events are going on this week. Stay tuned for the Palmetto State calendar.
Before we go, let's take a look at the Palmetto State calendar. Starting off with some women's basketball, the Gamecocks will travel to the upstate to take on the Clemson Tigers at 6 p.m. on Saturday for a Palmetto State rivalry. Later in the week, they will travel to California to play the number 2 ranked Stanford at 3 p.m., and that will be broadcasted on the ABC. And then they will travel to play Cal Poly for an 8 p.m. game on Tuesday. The Chanticleer women's basketball team plays Wofford today with tip-off just a few minutes ago.
Moving on to the volleyball matchups for the week, the Tigers host Georgia Tech at 4 p.m. Coastal Carolina will play in the quarterfinals of the Sun Belt Championship in Foley, Alabama at 6 p.m. on Friday, and if they win, they'll play again in the semifinals on Saturday. If they win there, they'll play in the finals on Sunday.
Now let's check out the only women's soccer game for this upcoming week. The Gamecocks will travel to Durham, North Carolina to take on the Harvard Crimson in the second round of the tournament play.
Now we'll take a look at the football matchups for this week. On Saturday, the Gamecocks will take on Tennessee at home in Williams-Brice at 7 p.m. on the ESPN. The Clemson Tigers will host the Miami Hurricanes at 3:30 on Saturday, and the Chanticleers were scheduled to play Virginia, but due to the recent tragedy in Charlottesville, that game has been canceled.
Next up, let's look at the only men's soccer matchup this week. The Clemson Tigers will play this Sunday, November 20th, against the winner of the UCLA/Cal Baptist matchup in the second round of the NCAA tournament. That game will kick off at 6 p.m.
And finally, for the men's basketball matchups, the Gamecocks head to Charleston this weekend for a tournament. Their first game is on Thursday at 5 p.m., followed by a game against either Charleston or Davidson on Friday, and their last game will be on Sunday. The Clemson Tigers face Bellarmine at home on Friday at 7 p.m. and then will host Loyola, Maryland, also at 7 p.m. The Chanticleers will travel to Spartanburg, South Carolina to play USC Upstate at 7:30 p.m. That's all we have for tonight's edition of Palmetto State Sports.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SGTV Sports, and to keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtvonline.com. For SGTV News 4 Sports, I'm Courtney Hollmon.
And I'm Spencer Ball. From all of us here at SGTV, have a great night, Carolina.
Forever to be.